while I was resting. Welcome to While I Was Resting, the podcast in which we chat to actors, performers, musicians, writers, creatives, you name it, about the jobs they do in between the jobs of their chosen profession. And today I'm very, very delighted to have Sophie Aldridge on the show, who you may know, of course, from Doctor Who. But I'll let Sophie tell you all about that, because I always like to start with the guests by just getting them to tell you a little bit about themselves and what they do.
Great, yeah. So thank you for this, Jason.
Absolute pleasure.
So gosh, I do lots and lots of different things, really, as most actors do, I guess, which is the whole point of your podcast, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, it was always my dream to be an actor, and so right from an early age, I was always putting on plays and writing stuff and starring in stuff and bossing people around, which I now call directing. Yeah. So it started very early, really. So I'm doing all sorts of things. So recently, I've been directing a one-man show. I've been doing lots of voiceovers, which is sort of what I love to do. That's my main acting job at the moment. And audiobooks and stuff like that. And then I've co-written a book, a novel for Doctor Who as well. So
amazing.
Yeah, all sorts.
Wow, that must keep you busy.
Very.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
And when you say you were kind of doing it at school, like writing plays and stuff, was it, were you actually kind of the person, that person that tries to get all your friends involved in putting on productions?
Oh, yeah, completely. So apparently my mum says I was about 5 years old, and she'd look out the back window into the garden and see me like striding around with a hobby horse and this kind of satin shirt from the dressing up box and a little velvet cap, being the prince. I always had to be the prince, the hero,
Absolutely.
And then I'd get all the neighbourhood kids and my brother, and they would be, I'd say, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And basically we did these plays, which were sort of fairy tales and things, I guess, if I was the prince. And then sometimes we'd do a play and then we'd invite parents to come and see it. And then I must have been quite a good businesswoman, even at the age of 5 or 6.
Did you do tickets?
Oh, yeah, did tickets.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember we charged 6 old pence, 6D. And then any money, the idea was that I would send the money off to Blue Peter, which was my all-time favourite TV programme.
Of course.
I don't know. I hope I did send the money off to Blue Peter.
Oh, right. Yeah. I remember doing the same thing when I was at school, trying to cajole my classmates in the drama class to put on a proper play.
Yes.
And I remember I wrote this, what I thought was a brilliant play, but it's very ambitious. It was kind of Doctor Who-ish. It was about, I was the space captain. I was always the space captain. And we flew to a planet populated by robots, and we had to fight the robots. And I'd written a script, and I'd said, learn the script for Friday's drama class. And I'd written stage directions, and I'd even made it like a tape with sound effects that I'd told somebody. Oh, it was
brilliant!
Boy, it was such a disaster. The person on the sound effects tape just messed it all up.
Oh, you see, it's all other people, isn't it? That's why you do stuff on your own now,
Nobody learned the lines, they were just reading them, but they read all the
Shocking.
stage directions. So I'd say, we're entering a force field, and then like Dave would say, we rock on our chairs from side to side. And I'm like, no, Dave, that's a stage direction. You're supposed to...
Oh, well, that reminds me, when I was about 8, I think, I had a fantastic teacher called Miss Kemp. And she was one of these she looked quite starchy, looking at pictures of her. She's quite tweedy.
Yeah.
But she's actually, she's probably not that old, really. But to me, she seemed very old anyway.
Teachers always seem very old when you're a kid, don't they?
Yes. Anyway, I loved her to bits. And she wrote these what they called take part books, and they took classic stories, things like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Hiawatha, things like that, and they split them into play scripts in a book. And so but it was all differentiated. It must have been the very early days of working out that some kids could read very easily and some just couldn't. So they had asterisks. You see, what you missed, Jason, was in your scripts, you needed asterisks.
I didn't make it clear.
No. So for the sound effects, they had asterisks. So those were the people who were really struggling with their reading, so that they could join in as well.
Yeah.
And then there would be simple parts, just like 1 or 2 words or 3, whatever, simple words. And then right up to the sort of, the space captains and the princes like you and me.
Yeah. That's clearly what we were born to be.
Exactly.
Space captain and princes.
So we'd sit round this great big reel-to-reel. You remember those old reel-to-reel tape recorders? And speak into a microphone. We were the guinea pigs in our posh school in southeast London for these take part books. And I believe they're still going today.
I'll have to try and hunt one down.
Yeah.
And they sound brilliant.
Yeah, they're very good.
Very inclusive. Yeah, everyone gets to have a go.
So there was that. And then I also I loved the stories of Just William.
Oh, yeah.
I really loved William.
They
in
were
fact,
great.
one of my sons is called William after Just William.
Oh, amazing.
So, of course, I saw myself as William, although it was strange. I wasn't that rebellious or anything. But anyway, I would take the stories. I'm about 10 now. I'd take the stories from the books and turn them into play scripts. And so I'd get my friends, Ruth and Emma and Caroline and Sophie, was she there at the time? I don't think she was. Anyway, we'd all be in these productions that I was William, of course.
Naturally, yeah.
And I loved the idea of having my socks down, which was strictly not allowed
forbidden.
at school. Yeah, but so we'd always end up fighting as well, which was fun because we were an all-girls posh school in southeast London, where you don't often have cause for a fight. So we kind of would end up rolling around.
You could have a scripted fight and find an excuse.
It was great. Yeah. Yes, and then the next thing was, I think I was about 11, and a friend took me to a production of Blithe Spirit by Noel Coward at the Fairfield Halls in Croydon.
I know the Fairfield Halls.
You know
I played at the Fairfield Halls.
There you go.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful play, and it includes this marvellous character who I just, aged 11, completely fell in love with. This sort of elderly batty woman who's a medium, and she's called Madame Arcati, and she's it's a classic part for an older woman. I'm hoping to play her at some stage in my career. And at one point she has a séance and everybody's sitting around the table and she says, "Is anybody there? 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no." And I just completely fell in love with this character.
That's brilliant. That's exactly the voice I thought you were going to do.
Hey, exactly.
What you said,
you just know, don't you?
You just know that voice is coming. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And so I came home and I wrote it all out, everything I could remember, because I didn't realise you could get that Noel Coward was actually quite a famous bloke and you could get the play script.
Okay, yeah.
So I wrote it all out. And then again, I said, right, to my friends, we're going to do this. And we had a drama competition at school called the Gadsden Drama Competition, named after Miss Gadsden, who was a sort of formidable headmistress who'd left some years before. And so we entered this competition, and I don't think we won that year because it was too long, because we hadn't allowed for the fact that people were laughing so much.
Ah, well, that's good.
But I fell in love with playing batty old ladies and swathed in scarves. I was also very small for my year, so it must have been quite funny seeing this
tiny little old lady.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then the following year we entered again, and I'd learnt my lesson, so I developed a play called Pig Hooey, which was based on a P.G. Wodehouse story. My dad is a huge P.G. Wodehouse fan. And quite funny for an 11 or 12-year-old to think of doing a P.G. Wodehouse thing. Anyway, it's where Lord Emsworth has this prize pig called the Empress of Blandings, and it's a classic chapter. Stephen Fry would know what I was on about. And I dramatised it, and we put that on, and phew, we won the prize that year.
Well done. Good work.
So all this, we didn't have drama lessons in those days.
No.
You know, I'm so old. We didn't have drama O-level, or it was just
we didn't at my school.
That's right.
We had a weekly kind of session, but it wasn't a proper subject. It was like just a thing you could take part in. You know?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and this same teacher who I was talking about earlier, she did a lot of productions at school. She did a pageant once, I remember, and quite ambitious actually. So we did a lot of drama in our English lessons, which was wonderful. I loved it.
Yeah, and is that what spurred you on, obviously.
Yeah.
The grounding for your future career.
Definitely, yes. And I fell in love with it. And then the school was very good, actually. We did an opera every year. So when I was 11 at the senior school, just got there, we did a production of an opera called Armagh and the Night Visitors, which is a lovely, lovely sort of operetta. Yeah. And I auditioned for and got the part of this young boy who has to use a crutch, and it's a beautiful piece. I can you know how when you can remember every word.
Yeah,
I can still remember the whole thing. It was great. And of course I was working with all these sixth formers.
Oh, the big kids.
The big girls, yeah.
The cool kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Pamela Lydiard played my mum in it, and I fell in love with her. She was wonderful. She was so kind and nice. I used to watch as she came into assembly every morning and think, oh, there's Pam. There's Pamela.
So, of course, from that, after school, but before you became like famous for Doctor Who, of course, I remember you telling me that, you know, you went through the classic dilemma that many actors have to go through to get an equity card. And of course, what this podcast is about all the things we've done outside of the things that you're well known for.
Exactly.
And I remember you telling me that you did something, which is something that I've done too, but which was you're talking about singing then, because of course one thing our listeners might not know is you've got a fantastic singing voice.
Thank you.
No, you genuinely do.
I
In fact, I was here in this very room like 3 years ago and recorded a song called I Want to Spend My Christmas with the Dalek, which if you look it up on YouTube you can find. We did a little charity Christmas video.
I'm very proud of it. Yeah, do look it up.
Do look it up. But you decided you needed, so you kind of, was it after you left school, or you decided you wanted to go into performing?
Yeah, what happened was I had a very encouraging English teacher in my A-level years, and she was talking to me a bit about drama schools and so on, and I did audition for drama schools, although I was only 17 at the time, because when I left school I was only 17, because I'm a late August birthday, so that's the way the cookie crumbled.
Okay.
And of course I'm just fortunate, I look younger than I am. So they all just took one look at me and thought, you know, who is this child coming to audition? And all said, go off and get some experience. So I thought, okay, well, university was another option. And there were, I think at the time, 5 courses in the whole of the country that offered a drama BA, which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, looking back. So I went up to Edinburgh actually, because I was thinking of doing an English degree, and my headmistress said to me, "Oh yes, you must do that because of the Edinburgh Festival." I got up to Edinburgh and I was so cold. I thought, I can't be here for 4 years, so I wimped out of Edinburgh because of the weather, and then ended up in Manchester, which is a bit weird because, you know, you would have thought the same thing would apply.
It's not that different.
But I loved it. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. And then, so I did the degree, met all sorts of brilliant people like Simon Hickson.
Who was on the podcast a few episodes ago. Yeah.
Trevor Neal.
Who's doing the next one. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All sorts of Doon McKeekan and lots of comedians, actually. There was Rick Edmondson and Rick Mail and Aid Edmondson had just left not long before, and Ben Elton was doing an MA, so you know, there was all that sort of excitement as well about alternative comedy.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to continue with the acting. So when I left, I came back to London and I thought, right, okay, what do you do now? So I looked in the back of the Stage,
the
newspaper,
back of the Stage.
Classic, and I saw, I auditioned for a few things, and one of them was a sort of a dodgy equity blacklisted panto.
Right, okay.
And we rehearsed at Plaistow Boys' School. No, it was like a club. It was a boxing club.
Right.
And it was run by these sort of EastEnders.
Not the Craze.
Well, not the Craze, but yes. I don't quite know what he did, but he'd obviously realised he was onto a good thing here. So there there were about 8 groups of us all rehearsing the same script for Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And then at the end of the rehearsal period, we were all divvied up into areas of the country, given a van, a set and a PA system, and off we went to do these pantos in working men's clubs.
Brilliant.
Now, I'd never heard of working men's clubs. I was a posh girl from Blackheath in southeast London. You know, I'd barely even been down to Lewisham in those days, you know, so I'd led a very sheltered life. And suddenly there we were. I chose to go to the northeast because it was the longest run and I could make the most money.
But probably one of the toughest crowds.
To play Baby Bear, the baddie's assistant, and to drive the van. Those were my jobs. And a lovely group of people, one of whom is still a great friend of mine today, who was just transferring his skill set from being a chef to wanting to be an actor, a guy called Paul Corley. And Paul was great because we had very little money, so we'd give him our money. He'd buy sort of like scrapings of this and bits of that, and then make sort of fabulous soups for us and things. Oh. Anyway, we went round these working men's clubs. Bear in mind that this is, when would it have been? 1983, so not long after the miners' strikes.
Yeah.
Those areas of the country are pretty desolate, and they were trying to just put on shows for the kids just to kind of keep morale going, really. I'd never been somewhere where women actually weren't allowed, you know.
Yeah.
It was still the days. In fact, I remember, please forgive my dreadful Geordie accent, it's one I really can't do. But I walked into a bar in one of these working men's clubs to ask where we could plug in so-and-so. And this guy said, "You're not allowed in here, pet." And I was like, I said, "Why not?" And he said, "No lassies allowed." And I said, "What?" In my strident, feminist, radical, Manchester student way.
Yes.
"What are you talking about, you sexist bastard?" I said to him. And he turns and he says to his friend, "Why, aye," he says, "I'm in here. She just called me a sexy bastard." Just completely like... Anyway, so that was an education for me. It really was.
Yeah.
And then we would... the one thing that I do remember from that is that we were so hungry ourselves that we would wind the audience up. My job was winding the audience up because they would get sort of refreshments and sweets and things. And if I wound them up enough, they would start throwing these Mars bars and things at us on the stage. And then, so they chuck these sweets onto the stage, and then my job was to sweep them up and put them in a box, take them home, and we'd have them for supper.
Brilliant.
You know? Anyway, so I did that for a while. And then I thought to myself, with another guy in the group, I thought, hang on a minute. We're onto something here, working men's clubs. And I went back to Manchester and we worked up a duo, you know, with songs, because we could both sing in harmony. And so we were doing things like Everly Brothers. And,
absolutely,
50s and 60s songs, and so I wrote out the dots as they, you know,
the dots,
that's
the
right,
dots,
because I did music A level and I sort of
you struggled
struggled
do the dots.
I did the dots, and then the guy decided not to do it with me, and I thought, no. Bloomin' heck, so he went off back home.
But obviously got all these dots.
Yeah, got me dots.
Sheet music to people listening if you don't know what dots are, but yeah.
And so, actually, funnily enough, then a friend of ours, a friend of Simon and Trev's and mine, called Paul Ford, Paul Brophy now, he said, "Oh, I'll do it." He was in his third year, but he thought, "Well, yeah, okay, I'll do that with you." So I started, it was just like, I didn't know what to do, but I just rang the working men's clubs, talked to the people who were putting on the entertainment and said, "Look, we'll come and do you this show if you want." And then I have to say, I have to be very honest here. I said, "You don't even need to pay us. All we need is contracts from you to say that we've performed in your venue.
So you can send them to Equity.
So we can send them to Equity and get our Equity cards."
Yeah.
So these concert secretaries, as they were called.
I remember the concert secretaries.
Yeah, do you remember them?
Oh, yeah.
They would say, yeah, okay, all right.
Oh, free turn.
Free turn. Yeah, all right. So, and then also we were invited to audition shows. Did you ever play for those?
I never played for those,
Oh, now, those were unbelievable.
Oh, right, tell me more.
I remember one in particular. We were underneath the arches of Piccadilly Station, which is now all ever so posh. And
Manchester. Yeah.
And it was a little sort of almost like a hole in the wall, and it was a working men's club.
Yeah.
Very smoky in those days, very quite seedy.
Yeah.
And what would happen was that if you wanted to be booked, it was like a sort of like a talent show in a way.
Almost like a working men's X Factor.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Exactly like. So all the concert secretaries would go along on this particular day, and you'd do your act, and then they'd come and book you if they wanted you for their club.
Like it was a showcase,
It
basically.
was.
Yeah.
It was a showcase. Oh, some great things I saw there.
Oh, really?
Elvis Impersonators, of course.
Classics.
Unsuitable Elvis Impersonators as well.
Oh.
I think one of the most glorious ones that we saw were these two very elderly guys in suits and pork pie hats, and they came sort of shuffling onto the stage, took their mics and started singing, "They try to tell us we're too young," at which Paul and I could hardly stop laughing.
Would they do it without any irony?
Oh, no irony whatsoever. No, this was, you probably know this was a very serious business.
It was.
Yeah, really serious business. It's the early 80s. There's not much joy around for so-called working men because most of them are not working.
Yeah.
And the clubs was a great place where they could go and get a very cheap
It was
beer.
all cheap there, the beer, because it was all, they paid the subs.
That's right.
The subsidies, and it all went towards the entertainment lines, getting the entertainments on and subsidising the beer and stuff. So, you probably, in London now, you pay £6 for lager.
Yes.
In working men's club, you pay £6. You could probably buy everyone a drink in the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And food as well sometimes
Yeah.
would come around, free sausage rolls and things like that. So that was it. We were in, and we'd turn up and we'd find the band. Like you were part of a band, weren't you?
I did the working men's club. Yeah, there's a band. Yeah.
That's right. And you'd get these mainly elderly guys. Were you unusual in your age?
Yes, I was. So what happened? I was telling you earlier. But
Yeah.
What happened
Give
with
us a
me
story,
was I
Jason.
got a little knock on my door. I was about 16, 17. I've been playing guitar since I was a teenager, so a little knock on my door. I opened the door. It's this bloke. Never seen him before in my life. Probably in his 50s. Trevor Owen, he was called. Sibs, everyone called him. But I'd never met him before. I said, "Oh, I'm Trevor. Everyone calls me Sibs." And I said, "Oh, hello." He said, "My mate tells me you play a bit of guitar." I said, "Well, yeah, I'm just learning. I've been playing for a few years." He said, "Well, we do a working men's club band, and our guitarist is so old that he's got arthritis and his fingers aren't really working anymore. So we need somebody younger to come and play." And so,
Oh,
hello.
check that out. That's my doorbell, folks.
That's your doorbell. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll be back.
Hang on a minute while I
This
go
is
and
very
open
good.
the door.
Hey,
Let's
it's like
see
Noel's
who
house
it is.
party.
It is, isn't it?
And Mr. Blobby comes in. We'll be back. While I was resting. We return for while I was resting after a small interjection from the postman. I hope you've got a nice parcel.
Yeah, I hope it's a present.
Anyway, I was just saying how I got into it. It was this guy walked in. Never seen him before. He walked in. I'd just been literally playing my guitar, practicing in the living room when he knocked. So I had my guitar on me. And he said, "Oh, what are you playing?" And I said, "I'm just learning solo from Sultans of Swing." So he said, "Oh, can you play me a bit?" So I played a little bit of it. I said, "Right, that'll do." He said, "Do you want to come to me?" We rehearse at my kitchen every Wednesday, and every Friday and Saturday we go and we do all the working men's clubs up north. And he said, "You'll make about 80 to 100 quid a night." And I was like, "What? That's amazing." All my mates are working in McDonald's for like £1.50 an hour back then. And I thought, that is incredible. So I spent the next sort of 2-3 years doing all these working men's clubs up north, yeah. But I was in a much older band who'd been around from the 60s. So
yes.
for me, it was a very unusual thing to be doing because I was, a lot of the time, 20 or 30 years younger than everybody else in the room, at least.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, same with us.
Yeah.
We'd turn up and it was like these two little whippersnappers.
Yeah.
Because we were, what were we? I suppose we were 21, but even so, we looked younger, both of us. And I wore, I've still got it actually, I wore this 1950s, a real 1950s dress that I'd found in some brilliant charity shop in Manchester, Salvation Army actually.
Yeah.
They had this fantastic depot along Oxford Road, and you could go in there and there were floors and floors of second-hand clothes. Not anything like Affleck's Palace, which was posh up the road, the vintage as you'd call it now.
Oh yes.
But this was just literally loads of clothes, and you'd go in and sort through. So I got myself kitted out with this very nice like 50s sticky out skirty thing. And then Paul would wear a sort of 50s suit.
Nice suit, yeah.
And I mean, we looked like babies compared with most of the people there. And as you say, the bands were very experienced, very talented musicians, really, you know, jobbing musicians.
For a lot of musicians, it was a good job to have.
Yeah.
It was regular work.
A lot of money, really, in those days. And but then they were variable in their standard.
Yeah.
So you'd go in and, you know, you got your dots. So you give them your dots.
Yeah.
They'd look through, you know, what key, what tempo, you know.
Yeah.
And then quite often we'd find ourselves on stage and I'd give them a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. But sometimes it would be like, oops, they were playing double time.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'd have to kind of adjust, so to speak. Because you don't have any rehearsal. Of course, you just go on the stage. You just go on. They start playing. You
and
start
your band
singing.
can be anything, can't it? It could be a full band. It could be just some bloke on
Could
his
be a
Bontempi
stylophone.
organ. Yeah. It really could.
Yeah. Once I remember we were singing a number and the drummer had this habit of speeding up.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, that
he
was
wanted
funny.
to get to the bar.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
So he'd start off, boom, boom, boom. So it was, you know, dream, dream, dream. And then by the end, dream, 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 dream. When I want you. It was kind of getting quicker and quicker. And then once I remember we were in a club in North Manchester somewhere, and suddenly all the sound went cut. Must have fused. Speakers, everything. So we just thought, oh goodness, what are we going to do? And the audience is all getting angry, you know, and they're
throwing the sausage rolls on the stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Paul brilliantly just starts to do a sort of pretend tap number.
Nice.
And we sort of
Good recovery.
pretend that we're tapping around the stage.
Styled it out.
Seemed to do the trick.
Brilliant. Yeah, you did. Did you find that a lot of things in those working men's clubs revolved around the bingo?
Oh gosh, if you interrupted the bingo, you were basically out on your ear.
And I always remember one of my abiding memories is before we went on, you'd always get a visit from the concert secretary.
Yes.
And with what you need to do for the night. And I always remember he'd come backstage into the dressing room, or sometimes the toilet, which was the dressing room, or quite often it was the storeroom where they kept the beers. They changed in there quite a lot. He'd go in there, and he'd be like, "Oh, right there. Well, right. If you're going about 8 and you do about 45-minute set, but don't drag it on because bingo. We got the first round of bingo, right, and then come back on and just do a little spot." Because
spot. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
spot. Yeah, and you've got. Whatever you do, get off by 9:30, because if you're not off for gala bingo, we've got a meat hamper, they'll be able to pay. Right, it'll kill you. And so it was all around the timings, but
absolutely, yes.
Played second fiddle to the bingo.
And I do remember the meat.
Meat hampers.
The meat hampers, the meat auctions, things like that. Because, of course, it was really expensive for people, still is, to buy meat.
It was, yeah.
So, to come to the Working Men's Club for pretty much nothing and have the chance of winning
a huge meat hamper.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
It was a brilliant education for me, not only in terms of dealing with stuff on stage, the sort of powerfully being able to handle things.
Yeah, because things when you don't even have rehearsals and stuff, you've got to be prepared for anything that can go wrong.
That's right. So it was really great, and for improvising and everything.
Yeah.
I never opened my mouth on stage apart from singing, because I thought, right, if they get wind of the fact that I'm a posh southerner,
Right.
I'm not going to be liked.
Yeah.
So I'd speak to the concert secretary on the phone, and then if I had to say something, I'd just slightly sort of northern up a bit. But then Paul, who was he's a Mancunian, he would do the talking. So, you know, and in those days, of course, it was accepted that the bloke would do it all. I mean, normally I would be right front stage and centre, but I realised that really wasn't going to work.
Yeah, and sometimes you might have a compere as well at these clubs, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Like the club comic or something like
yes,
that.
wearing an amazing jacket.
And often with a perm.
Yes,
That's 80s
always
perm.
with a perm.
Yes.
And usually with a leftover 70s, you know, those frilly shirts.
Ruffled shirts, dinner suit, perm.
Yes.
Jokes about the mother-in-law.
Often velvet jacket.
Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds like a stereotype now, but it
it
did exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was real.
I mean, I remember looking and thinking, wow, this is something I had no experience of at all. And this wonderful world. And looking back on it, actually, it's like, it seems a bit like a dream somehow, because it seems like something I've seen on TV, but actually that's what it was like.
And it is, and it's something that's disappearing now.
Yes.
But
Which is a great shame.
It was.
Because I think it's another thing it did was bind a community, a sort of disenfranchised community together.
Yes.
And people could actually, people watch telly now, I guess, but that sort of community getting together, enjoying music, playing bingo, just having a laugh.
It was a hub, wasn't it?
It was,
a community hub,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they were great day. I loved it. It was, for me too. I just thought it was great education.
Yes.
And it was a great musical education as well.
Oh, it must have been for you.
Because, 17, when you're sort of 16, 17, a teenager, you want to play like Van Halen and stuff like that. But I had to learn everything, lots of different styles.
Yeah,
so
what were you playing?
I was on the guitar.
Yeah, and what music?
And so the music could be anything from like a foxtrot medley to Kylie and Jason or Status Quo or the rock and roll medley. A lot of medleys. So there'd be like the rock and roll medley, the pop medley, the 60s medley, the foxtrot, the barn dance medley.
Oh, yeah.
The Scottish dancing medley. Lots of, and I had to play them all as instrumentals on guitar. So I'd have to learn all it. So I'd be ding, 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 all that kind of stuff for the New Year's Eve party and all these sorts of things.
Wow.
So,
and were people dancing? Did people get up and dance?
Yeah. It was very much, we were kind of the sort of party band.
Yes.
And we were the entertainment. People loved it.
Yeah.
I
think it's a real shame that that's dying out, as you say.
Yeah. And not so much bands anymore as well. A lot of it's now just backing tracks and karaoke nights and things like that. So there's not as much. The live element's got a little bit from it too, if where it exists at all.
Yes.
But it was great. Yeah, I loved it. So that got you.
Yes. Well, then eventually we realised we'd done a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
And we'd got all these contracts, and I kind of took them up to the equity office in Manchester. Handed them in, and didn't really ever think that it was going to work. You know? I just thought, oh well, it was worth a try. And then, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, whenever later, got a letter from them saying, "Yep, you're equity members in the Variety." So I'm a Variety member of equity.
Oh right, did that?
Yeah.
Preclude you from doing other things? Or?
No,
that's good.
No.
Yeah,
and I really had a great fondness for that. Actually, it's something I'm proud of. That's great. And then I'd got my equity card. And
something we should clarify for listeners, just going back, we mentioned this previously, especially with James Lovell, who was a clown for the same reasons.
Right, yeah.
But there was a time when it was kind of a closed shop, and there was this unique kind of catch-22 situation.
It really was.
Whereas if you wanted to be do theatre or TV or something as an actor or whatever, you had to have an equity card. But to get an equity card, you had to prove that you were like a performer or an actor. So you had to have professional work. So you had to find professional work that you could get, which didn't involve having an equity card. Then you might get contracts and receipts for it, and take them to equity to say, look, I'm in showbiz,
Yes, it was a real catch-22. And I think, in a way, that was a good thing, because there are plenty of people who would have got stopped, I think, by that. And I don't know, I just always thought, well, give it a go, just do it and let's see. And that paid off. And I think that probably in those days, I don't know, not many people were doing that, maybe, to get equity cards.
Yeah.
Because the people who were in the clubs were doing it because they wanted to sing in the clubs.
Oh, yeah.
I put my hand on my heart and I can say that wasn't my ambition to do that. It was definitely a means to an end. But blimmin' heck, I'm so glad I did it. It was a huge education for me, socially, sort of class consciously, politically, and also in terms of just the sheer performing, even if an audience hates you.
But you do get that from...
You do.
Did you ever have to deal with a really antagonistic audience?
Yeah, just like, and that's great because you just kind of, you have to just toughen up.
Yeah.
And not make it mean anything. Plough on. Do it.
Yeah. It's just
not
a bad day at work.
Yeah,
tomorrow's another day.
Yeah. So all those things, it taught me such a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. And then I had my equity card. And then when you had your equity card in those days, you had to do a 6-month, almost like a probationary period you had. So you had
you have to continue getting work in to prove that it wasn't...
So you had your provisional equity card.
Yeah.
And then you had to work for 6 months in order to get a full equity card. And I came down to London and, again, looked in the back of the good old stage. And they were auditioning for... There was an audition for a children's theatre company in Hackney called the Theatre of Thelema at the time. It's called Quicksilver Theatre Company now. And I went along for the audition, which was in this kind of old... I don't know whether it was a garage or a Nissan hut or something on the Kingsland Road. And it was a wonderful company run by a Dutch guy called Guy Holland or Guy Holland and his wife Carrie English. And I auditioned, and the weird thing was, on the little kind of publicity flyer that they had for this new show that was coming along, which was called Marathon Madness, there was a line drawing of this girl, and it looked a bit like me, had a ponytail like this.
Fate.
And I thought, hang on a minute. Anyway, I did my audition and I got in. And so I worked for with them for a year, actually, going around schools in Hackney, going around parks and open air venues. We did a tour with them. I played a couple of characters in 2 shows with them. And again, great education.
Yeah, I mean, really. Theatre and education work provides a lot of work for actors.
Yes. Yes, and much needed work again,
definitely, yeah.
I remember going into these schools in Hackney, bearing in mind it was 1984, I think. And for most, we couldn't work out at first why the audience there was this kind of murmuring, people were talking all the way through.
Yeah.
And we thought, they'd probably not been to the theatre before, well, for sure. And then the teachers told us, of course, that actually English was most of their second language. So they were translating for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what the murmuring was.
Wow.
It was really great to be offering something they'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
And going in there and giving them a story, really telling a fun story. It was musical again, so lots of singing, lots of...
Yeah.
Larking about. I had a puppet on my arm, which was a sort of a bit like an emu puppet.
Yeah,
you can't see, but I'm doing the actions.
You're gesticulating.
Imagine, I am.
imagine a faceless emu.
Yeah, and it used to come and peck me, like this, and bite.
I bet the kids loved that.
They loved it.
Yeah,
really loved it. So again, another skill, the puppeteering, having to do something. Physical. With your hand and your arm without moving the rest of your body, without reacting with the rest of your body.
Oh, yeah. And from there, so you got your probation then?
So I'd got my stripes, I'd got my full equity card, and I started auditioning. Oh no, the next thing I did was, I thought, I think I probably need an agent now. So I thought, what can I do to get myself an agent? And in those days, there was a sort of small, very small fringe venue above the Bear and Staff pub in Leicester Square. And I don't know how, maybe the stage again, good old stage, eh? I saw that there was an advert somewhere for a Dostoevsky two-hander called Underground Man, which was based on a book by Dostoevsky called Notes from Underground. And all very heavy. I went along and auditioned and got the part. And so I thought, right, great. What I'll do is write to all the agents. Because it's in Leicester Square, they may be walking home through that way or whatever. It's kind of convenient for them to go to. And and I sort of sent off my CV. I also kind of made sure that my CV, because of course days before internet and all that, I made sure my CV looked a bit different. So I folded it in 4, made it a little bit bigger than a A4 actually, I think, so that if you put it in a pile, it would stick out. Yeah. And then on the front, I stuck my publicity photo actually onto the CV. And it was a kind of nice gatefold, a nice design, because I used to like designing. And agents did come, one of whom was an agent called June Epstein, who'd been around, one of these agents who's been around forever. And she came along and said, yeah, she saw the performance. She said, yeah, I'll take you on. So that was amazing, you know.
Yeah.
So I had an equity card and an
agent.
And
You're
so
rolling
I
on a roll
started
there.
auditioning, yeah. And I'd go to anything really. I remember going to one audition and it was at Pineapple Studios in Covent Garden.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an open audition. And I went to quite a lot of open auditions in those days. And there was this queue of people outside, I'm not kidding, round the block. We weren't told what it was for. We had to just bring a song. So eventually I queued up, waited for hours, you know, in the cold, and got inside and sang my song. And then at the end of the song, they said, oh, could you come back for a recall in an hour? So, you know, great, okay. So I went off, did something for an hour, came back thinking, oh, crikey, there'll be like half the length of the queue now. And as I recall, there were about 4 or 5 people,
good.
Which was great.
Yeah.
All about my age, you know. Went in, sang the song again, and I think that was it. I didn't really hear anything more, and I didn't even really know what it was for. And then, by some chance, I was watching the Eurovision Song Contest, and our entry was a girl that I'd been in this. You know,
So that was it.
So that was it.
They were auditioning for the Euro
Yes.
band. Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the song was?
Not a clue.
No. What would it be? Would that be kind of mid to
it
late
would have
80s?
been 80, maybe 84, 85, something like that.
Just after kind of Bucks Fizz.
Yes,
A few years.
And it
they
was
were
a
about
girl
81,
on
I
her
think.
own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could probably YouTube it
Yeah,
now
probably.
and find out what
Yes,
it
that's
is.
true.
I think they're all up there on YouTube now.
Oh, great. I
Do a
should find
search,
that
find out. Yeah, you find out.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
So there were all sorts of amazing things like that.
Yeah.
And then I auditioned, and again, an open audition. I think my agent actually did tell me about this one, though, and I went up for this one. And I'm thinking maybe I did other jobs as well, but I can't remember. Lots of auditions. I mean, it's funny as an actor, isn't it? Because people tend to assume that you do an audition, you get the job, and you know, or you don't get the job.
There's lots of callbacks.
But you do loads.
Yeah.
And callbacks and
waiting.
waiting.
And pencils.
Yes.
I remember my friend telling me about the pencil system. Like, is it a light pencil or a heavy pencil?
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Availability check first.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And then you might never hear from them again.
Yeah.
So you can never really get excited, can you? You never know.
Not until
it's
confirmed.
absolutely confirmed.
Bottled down, yeah.
And even then, actually, I remember I think I'd done Doctor Who and some children's telly, and I was up for an advert, which was exciting because it was good money, really good money.
Yeah.
And I went along, had a costume fitting, did everything. We're just about to set off to shoot and everything. And they cancelled it because, of course, they realised it was for a beer commercial. And I couldn't be seen to be, because I was on children's telly,
Right,
couldn't be promoting beer, which I absolutely agree with wholeheartedly. But it was, I think they did pay me a bit. It was a bit of a shame about the money.
Yeah, you think once you've gone through the whole costume bit, it's kind of
Yes.
signed, sealed, delivered,
Yeah,
don't you?
you
But
never quite know.
no,
Anything can happen.
it's true. It's true. So then, of course, you did the whole Doctor Who,
Yes.
kids TV as well.
Yeah, I
is it?
did. I was, well, the open audition my agent got me was for Fiddler on the Roof up in Manchester with Topol. And that was one of those classic auditions where you walk onto an empty stage and you sing your song,
Yeah.
you know, clack, 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 out into this empty, lonely space. And somebody
In
that
the
you can't
distance.
see, and you go, what are you going to sing?
Yeah.
You know, or height, or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And you say, I'm going to sing la 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 la. And then right, next. And they
Next
really do
is the
say
classic.
next.
Yeah,
It is the
that's
classic.
the audition you always imagine, because you see that's the one you always see in the
Yes.
films, isn't it?
Yes. And this was one of them. And again, they said, come back in an hour or something. And
Yeah.
I came back. And I got into the chorus and understudying Hoddle in Fiddler on the Roof with Topol, who did the original film
Yeah, of
up
course,
in Manchester
yeah.
again at the Opera House in Manchester. And then from there, I auditioned for Doctor Who, I did Doctor Who. And then at the same time, around that time, I also, because I'd loved Blue Peter so much, I always wanted to be a children's TV presenter. So I sent off lots of letters and CVs to the BBC. And by some amazing chance, somebody in the contracts department at the BBC obviously took pity on me and sent me a letter back and said, would you like to come for a general audition for children's TV? Blimmin' heck, yes.
Yeah.
So I went along, and there was a panel of about 5 or 6 producers from different parts of the children's telly at the time. And you did a song, work with a puppet, I think. I had to do a make, like, you know, classic, upside downy, back to
Christmas tree
fronty.
we're making
Yeah.
out of tinsel and
Yes.
eggs.
Yes,
you know.
which I'd done for years, so
Yeah.
that was not a problem. And a little piece as well. I can't really remember what I did. Anyway, so they seemed happy with that, went away. And they said, well, there's nothing for you now, but we'll keep your name on file. And I thought, oh, yeah.
Oh,
right,
yeah, heard that before. Yeah.
And then lo and behold, a few months later, just after I'd heard I'd got Doctor Who, this producer called Alison Stewart got in touch with me and said, we're auditioning for a programme called Corners. We'd like to call you in for an audition. So I went to North Acton Rehearsal Studios, worked with a guy doing a puppet, did my song, did a make, did a piece, and then after a little while, you know, after I got a letter saying, yeah, you've got it. And so in the same year, it was 1987, that was incredible. I'd got Doctor Who, and we filmed Doctor Who, and then I went straight into doing Corners, and then that was just my life for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I did either Doctor Who or Corners. They worked it out so that I could do both.
That's brilliant.
For the whole time. So, I mean, I don't know
Never
anyone.
out of work.
No,
Yeah.
never out of work. I don't know anyone who's had that experience of just learning on the job, doing drama and TV presenting for 3.5 years. It was it was like, I never went to drama school. So for me, the BBC was my drama school.
Your
really.
apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was learning from Sheila Hancock, from Sylvia Sims, from James Ellis, from, I mean, you name it, they all came and did a Doctor Who. And I would watch like a hawk, you know, their camera technique, what they would do, so it really was learning on the job from those incredible people.
Yeah. And then obviously post Doctor Who and children's TV, one thing, you know, so what the podcast is about, talking about some of the other things you've done. So what have you been doing since then?
Well, I'm slightly unusual in that apart from a few weeks when I left university, I've never had a proper job. So the few weeks after I left university, I came down to London. I signed on with Manpower Temp Agency.
Oh, that's who Simon Hickson mentioned a lot.
I know.
Yes.
Well, Simon, I think it was either me who suggested it to Simon or he suggested it to me.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing all sorts of things. So for a week, I was a tea lady in some posh office in Knightsbridge. And then I found myself in BT. I was working for BT in a call centre, very early call centre.
Yeah.
But I was sent on a mission with another guy. We were allowed to get a cab to the library where they had all the yellow pages for the whole country. And our job, because this was way before the internet, was to look through all the yellow pages and get the numbers of all the tool hire companies in the country. And then we'd take them back to the call centre, and either we or they would ring all these tool hire companies. So that was, and I remember when I was there, somebody came rushing in and said very excitedly, has anyone got a radio? Anyone got a radio? And we put the radio on. They said, this is amazing. You know, BT is like they're pioneering this car phone, a phone in a car.
Wow.
And there's going to be somebody, they're going to be, I think, underneath Westminster Bridge. And they're ringing from a car.
Oh.
I was like, what is that all about?
Wow.
Incredible.
Was this a test, or was this something we're doing publicly?
No, this was the first public announcement,
Wow.
I think, of a mobile phone, I guess.
Do you remember who was doing it in the car?
I think it was some MP, which is
Really?
why
In my head I was imagining, I bet it was Noel Edmonds.
Yes, that would have been much
Seems
better.
like the sort of thing he'd be doing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes, that would have been better. Yeah, I can't remember who it was exactly, but it was quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
So then that was it. But actually, I did do something which Simon may have mentioned, which was, I think it was through Manpower or maybe something else. We got involved in doing a toy fair at Earl's Court. Did he tell you that?
Well, he told me about him being Groucho Marx.
Yes, that's right. He was Groucho Marx. There was also a time when he and Trev were demonstrating Action Man. They were on Action Man, and they got bored, and so put Action Men into, well, you can imagine, unmentionable positions just to cheer themselves up.
Yeah.
I was doing Potato Head Kids. Do you know Mr.
Yes,
Potato Heads?
yeah, I
Well, they
remember
brought
those.
these Potato Head Kids, and I had Dana for 8 hours every day singing in my ear on the video. They can change their hats, they can change their shoes. Potato Head Kids wear what you choose. Potato Head Kids wear the clothes you choose, or something like that. Anyway, and then there was also lovely, gorgeous Emma Chambers, who was dressed as Cindy, who then went on to do Vicar of Dibley. And she was dressed as Cindy, skipping. And she kept running over to me because we got on very well. She said, "Oh, these horrible businessmen are just leering at me in my Cindy leotard."
Oh, no.
So I felt I'd got off lightly, really.
Yeah, it was Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was that.
I think the toy fairs, I know a lot of actors who've done the toy fairs. It's
Yes.
become quite a staple
Yes.
of the year. Because they want
Brilliant
actors,
thing.
but, you know, I mean, they always want actors to be the demonstrators because they want people to, you know, not stand there being boring and stuff. You know, they want people who can liven it up,
Yes.
get an audience, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and then really since then, it's been all the children's TV presenting was something that just went on and on. So I ended up doing several series of Words and Pictures for BBC Schools. I did lots of radio stuff. I did a programme called Singing Together for many years. And then all sorts, like all the kids' stuff I did. I did a Saturday morning thing called Wow on ITV, which was funny because I was on that. Trev and Simon were on Going Live and Live and Kicking. And my husband was on Sky Sports. So there was a time in the, I suppose, early 90s where you could switch from several channels and see all of us. One of us.
One of them,
Yeah. Quite funny.
Yeah.
And so it went on. And then also, of course, in between that is all the Doctor Who spin-off stuff. So,
Yes, of course. That's become huge.
yeah. All the audios, all the conventions, which has just grown and grown, the
So
Comic-Cons.
when did you start doing the conventions?
pretty much as soon as I got the part.
Really?
So the Doctor Who Appreciation Society rang up and invited me to come to Imperial College in London, where they were having a convention. And I thought, okay, I'll go and do that. So off I went, putting my paintbrush down, I remember, because I was repainting my flat. And I arrived there and was shown into the green room. And I couldn't believe it. There in the corner was John Pertwee with Nicholas Courtney, the Brigadier, and John Franklin. John, what's he called? I've forgotten. Anyway, John and Richard Franklin. And they were my childhood. They were UNIT. John Levine, that's right.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know how I forgot. Sorry, John. In the corner, and I was just completely overawed. I was introduced to them. Oh, yes, come and sit with us. And I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. And then they took me through to where I was going to be on stage. And they took me through to the back of this lecture theatre. And I looked down and there was Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant, who I'd not seen on telly, but I knew of them. You know, I knew they were the Doctor and companion.
Yeah.
And Nicola, she had this most beautiful hairdo and she had this beautiful suit on and she was sort of shining, and I looked down at myself and there I was in my slightly paint spattered jeans and I just about managed to brush my hair. I thought, oh gosh, I wish they'd told me I could have dressed up a bit. Anyway, then they had this ruse where, because nobody knew who I was, because I just filmed my first story for Doctor Who, but nobody knew
right from
who
the
I was.
start then? Wow.
Yeah, right from the start. And this guy came up and he said, we've got an idea. So he told me what the idea was. And then at some point on the stage, he said, ladies and gentlemen, bring out your tickets. We've got an exciting raffle. So look at the number on your ticket. The winner of this will go to the BBC and they will spend a day on the set of Doctor Who. Everyone's like, and little did they realise that it was a fake competition. So anyway, he reads out this fictitious number and I wave this, I come down the steps with people like just about to kill me because I'd won this competition, hop up onto the stage and he says to me, what's your name? I say, my name's Sophie. Sophie what? Sophie Aldridge. He said, how do you feel about winning a prize to the set of Doctor Who? And I go, well, I don't know really. And
What?
Because I've been there for the last 4 weeks. Ooh. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the new Doctor Who companion, Sophie Aldridge. And these waves of people just came running down and click, 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 click,
wow.
The cameras clicking. I mean, it was just extraordinary. Yeah. And that was it. That was the beginning of my career in Doctor Who conventions.
Yeah. I mean, these conventions are huge now.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like, I think what's wonderful is that the idea of cosplay has really come into being now. Yeah, that's really
taken off.
Yeah, it came from America where people love dressing up, making their own costumes. Yeah. And now you go to things like MCM Comic Con or the Showmasters ones, and part of the main reason for people being there is that they are getting together to cosplay.
Yeah.
And it's just glorious to be sitting there at my table, with doing my autographs.
Your photos. And your signings.
But watching, especially young people, dressing up and really expressing themselves how they want to express themselves.
Yeah.
And some of them in the most elaborate costumes that they've handmade themselves. It's extraordinary. Yeah, really incredible. Such imagination. I was at one actually in Weston-super-Mare on Sunday, and there was this woman, and she'd made she was Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors, dressed as Seymour, but she'd made the plant in a plant pot like a puppet around her arm. So she had the puppet on her arm, the plant thing, and then she'd also decorated it with tinsel and things, like a sort of a Christmas Little Shop of Horrors. It was really fantastic. Yeah. The effort, the lengths to which people go.
Yeah, they're huge events now, aren't they?
They really are.
I remember a resident of Morecambe was in Star Wars, and he kind of, he kind of he probably made more money out of the conventions because he was Kenny Baker.
Oh, yes.
Who was in R2D2.
Kenny.
Kenny's lovely.
Yeah, lovely guy.
And because it brings me back to the clubs, because he used to be a club singer.
Did he?
He did. I remember, and it was before I knew he was R2D2. He'd been in the film, but I didn't know who was inside the robot.
Yes.
So it wasn't until I saw him performing that night. It was like a local benefit for a local club singer who died called Peter Dino. Peter Edmondson, really. But but Dino, because he did Dean Martin. So everyone called him Dino. Anyway, he sadly died of cancer. They did a cancer benefit. So all the like local sort of, Jim Bowen was there performing and comparing. I was there I was about 18 with a band. We opened doing a rock and roll set. And Kenny Baker, I met him downstairs. It was the Lambert Ballroom in Morecambe, and I met him at the back. And of course, he's little, so am I, but he's much smaller than me. And he had a xylophone. He plays the xylophone, and he said, "Excuse me, you couldn't help me with the xylophone upstaiars, could you?" So I remember carrying his xylophone upstairs. And he said, "Hello, I'm Jason." He said, "Oh, I'm Kenny," and stuff. And then he was on about halfway through the show, and he came on and said, "Oh, I'm Kenny Baker, I'm R2D2," and then he played the xylophone. And he did some songs. I remember his signature tune was "A Wonderful World." I see trees of green. Yeah,
wow,
there you go.
amazing.
So R2D2 was a pub singer up north.
Incredible. Well, that's another great thing about the conventions, because not only is it Doctor Who, but also you meet a load of other people from other shows, and they become really good friends as well. So lots of Star Wars, lots of Game of Thrones now.
Oh, huge!
Huge. All those shows, and it's fantastic. And you bump into people. The new series of Doctor Who, the people you meet from that as well. It's great.
Yeah,
really.
amazing.
It's a really good social event for us as well.
Absolutely, and of course that's led on to what you do a lot of now is the voiceover work for.
I do, yes,
and that's become a huge thing as well.
Really. It's funny when I about 20 years ago, when I was pregnant with my first son, I thought, right, although I did a bit of the shopping channel up in Liverpool as well, where I was pregnant. That was good, because it was, again, improvisation. Oh my goodness, you have to waffle on for 10 minutes about a 3D Elvis puzzle or something like that. So I did a bit of that, and then because there wasn't that much I could do when I was pregnant, but the shopping channel was great. And then voiceovers, and I loved it. I really got into voiceovers. So and that's something that's just really been my kind of mainstay, really, while the boys have been growing up, the Doctor Who and the voiceovers. So I'd do anything. I'd like commercials, or the kind of bread and butter money, which is wonderful, is English language tapes. So people who are learning English in other countries have these, used to be tapes, now CDs and downloads. And so I'll go in, I'll get my script, along with up to about 6 or 7 other actors. You have to be really good at what you do, because there's no retakes or anything like that, really. There's no time for messing up. We work with a lot of kids as well from Sylvia Young's Theatre School, which sounds awful, but actually they are brilliant, and the vast majority of them are so professional. I take my hat off to them, I really do. We have this idea of stage school kids, which is actually not
you
real.
Think they're going to be precocious and divas, and
they are jobbing actors like we are. They know how to behave, and they know how to do their job, otherwise they don't get booked again. Absolutely. Much like us. So yes, I'll go in and I'll be playing, 1 minute I'll be playing a 10-year-old boy, next minute I'll be playing something like a lizard, or I'll be playing a 70-year-old Indian granny, so it's so varied. Audiobooks are probably the hardest thing you can do as an actor, because it's like a performance, and it's just you. Yes. For 6 hours in front of a microphone.
Because that's what I was thinking must be the hard thing about it, because you're doing your lines, but you don't have the other person there with you.
No.
But you've got to make it sound like it is.
Yes,
it's all
that's
edited
right.
together later.
Yeah, and you're doing your you are reading the whole book, so you're doing You know, you're performing the whole thing. You got to remember who had which voice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did a trilogy last year, and these characters were ongoing, but it wasn't like I was doing it every day. So I had to kind of try and remember. Oh yeah, that's the and I'd give them sort of nicknames so that I could remember what the voices were. So I mean, I love it and I hate it because it's absolutely exhausting to do an audiobook. I think anybody would tell you that. But I do love reading. I love reading anyway.
Yeah.
So to be paid to read is great.
It's brilliant.
But I mean, you try it, sustaining reading for 2.5 hours we usually do, and then a little break.
With all
and
the
then
characters and
and the energy you have to put in because you're performing it. You know, you have to make it come alive.
Yeah, I mean,
for
chapter
the listener.
30's got to be as fizzy as chapter 2.
Yes. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So
Yeah,
I
mean,
mean,
it's
and a lot of animation as well.
Oh,
I've
really?
done.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I was Dennis the Menace, which was brilliant fun. And then Tree Fu Tom, who became very popular with young kids, which was a lovely job to do. Lots of different.
And computer games, that's quite a big source.
Computer games,
now
yes,
of voiceovers
absolutely,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, because back in my day, a computer game, all it did was go, pew,
Yeah.
pew. But now they talk, you know. They've got characters and everything,
Yes.
you know.
And back in my day, we didn't know what a computer was.
It's just, brilliant. So, well, we've been chatting, would you believe, for over an hour now.
Oh my goodness.
God, it's flown by.
Wow.
So I always like to end by just asking somebody, what kind of, what sage words of wisdom do you have for other people who want to do, following your footsteps, as it were?
Oh, well. I've got lots of words. I don't know whether they're particularly of wisdom, as you may have noticed, but I think the thing is, if you love this business, if you want to get into this business, you actually it has to be your life. It has to be your passion. I would also say, though, prepare for not working as much as you do for working, because if you think you're going to be in work all the time, you got another thing coming. Even the most successful, if you look at a comedian, a really successful comedian, they're off touring all the time. They're working. They're is that what you really want to do? And then you're always thinking, is it going to be my last job? So be prepared to not work as well, and to be happy, really, to be happy doing whatever you're doing. Throw yourself into your life.
Brilliant. Love that. Well, thanks ever so much for joining us while I was resting. It's been really lovely chatting to you. So thank you, Sophie Aldridge.
Thank you, Jason.
While I was resting.